I go to a pretty small school. We have a student body of around 300 students, including the junior high and high school combined. Now, that means that we don't have a lot of money. So our internet is terrible, our textbooks are pretty dated, and our equipment breaks all the time. But hey, that's the Peyton way. Anyway, our school isn't the only school with these kinds of financial issues. In fact, there are many schools across the nation that struggle with these exact same issues because the government doesn't provide schools with enough funding. If the government were to provide schools with more funding, students would be able to have access to better materials, more learning opportunities, and teachers would be able to be paid a lot more. Now, if the government provided schools with more funding, students would have access to better materials and tools, specifically textbooks. Many teachers rely on textbooks in order to teach their classes. Now, 25% of teachers have reported using textbooks that are over 10 years old. Now, this isn't a very big issue considering the content. Some teachers really enjoy the textbooks that they're using. They like the content inside of it and want to keep using them. There are other teachers that don't like their textbooks but are unable to get new ones because of the cost. Also, sometimes it's not the content that's the problem. Sometimes, like 10 years, that generates a lot of wear and tear because students don't take care of their textbooks. I know this from experience. Sometimes the textbooks are held together with nothing but duct tape and some prayers. It's not good. There are some teachers that don't even have enough textbooks for their classroom, even using ones like the one that I just showed you. And this can be a major problem. In addition, there are many curriculums today that require an online component, that requires students to be able to have access to the internet and computers. Not all students have access to those things at home, and so the schools sometimes have taken to lending laptops and tablets to the students. However, not all schools can afford that. There's also the issue of internet. If you go to a school like mine, the internet goes out at least once a month and is not very reliable. Students who rely on the school for internet, well, that's a major issue. Of course, you could always go to a library, right? They have computers, they have internet, and they have other good materials. However, if you live in a small town, sometimes the library is in the next town over, and that's not very helpful. Now that you know some of the issues that schools face materials-wise, let's talk about some of the learning opportunities that students could have if schools were given more funding. More money for schools means more classes. Many schools, such as my own, are too small to be able to support many classes. And the classes that get cut are the elective classes that will help students better achieve their goals for their future. For example, my school doesn't offer any sort of AP classes, not at all, because we don't have the teachers to teach them. Other electives like health or home ec are also cut because we can't afford it. Now, of course, if the class you want isn't offered at school, there's always the option of online classes. But online classes don't work for everybody. Of course, there's the internet issue again, and there's also just the fact that online classes take a lot of focus and dedication that not all people possess. There are people with lots of different learning styles. Me, for example, I have to have a teacher in order to be able to learn properly. There are also some classes that just don't work in online classes, such as foreign languages, because you have to be able to have somebody to communicate with to learn it properly. Now that you have that in mind, let's talk about how teachers are paid. Did you know that the national average salary for teachers is $38,617? That's not a lot. And Colorado teachers are paid even less, with an average of just under $33,000. Did you know that that is half of what the average Coloradan is paid? That is not a lot of money. And I think teachers deserve a lot more than they get. They have to work for 8 hours a day with disrespectful students, and then they go home and do hours worth of grading. And for what? To get paid half of what the normal Coloradan is paid? That's ridiculous. It causes all the teachers that are like good teachers to want to leave the classroom in order to get an administrative job to make more money. Now, that leaves the students with inexperienced teachers who may or may not know what they're teaching. At my school, for example, we recently lost one of our very good biology teachers. She left for an administrative position in a nearby school district. Her replacement, well, he was not great. He didn't know anything that he was teaching, and he wasn't very professional either. He came off as being very sleazy, to say the least. In any case, there is now an entire year of students that didn't learn biology, and I think that's a shame. Anyway, let's take a brief recap. If the government was to provide schools with more money, students would have better access to materials, like textbooks that aren't falling apart at the seams. Students would also be able to take the classes that they want in order to achieve their goals for their future. And also, teachers would be able to be paid enough to want to stay in order to teach the future generations of this country. So, the next time that we have an opportunity to raise the school's funding, I think you should all seriously consider it, because this is our nation's future. Thank you.